And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We're getting into the Bahrain Grand Prix. Yep, we've already done our preview, but we'll be trying to predict the winners and losers of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Who's going to be looking on form come the end, who's not. Obviously, this is before practice. We could be very wrong, but fingers crossed. I am kind of hopeful, but that's not the only thing. There's a few more headlines as well, which we're going to be getting into. As you can see, Mercedes looking quite hopeful for the Bahrain Grand Prix, especially compared to where they were in 22 and 23 going into Bahrain. Yeah, so Mercedes fans, I think, not completely smiling, but definitely a side smile, if there's such a thing. Also, James Allison, with that Mercedes, a lot happier, isn't he? Thank the Lord, if you're a Mercedes fan, James Allison has come back. Is he going to be the saviour? I guess time will tell. But slightly negatively, McLaren kind of downbeat on their chances. Tyre degradation, not particularly great. I mean, they weren't bad at tyre degradation last year, just not as good as Red Bull. This was, remember, the second fastest team last year. Last but not least, also, Alpine really struggling as well. Yeah, big question marks around the whole team. I just don't get it. But let's get into our winners and losers. Okay, so here we are. You can see the beautiful Bahrain setting behind. Now, our first negative then, yes, here we go. Esteban Ocon. I mean, if any of you saw that Drive to Survive, it was kind of a bit embarrassing, the whole team. Yes, they did 2 episodes on the Alpine team, and poor Otmar, was he just a complete victim of these 2 drivers? It seemed to be kind of like a bit of an ego between the 2 of them. We know they don't like each other, but I digress. The Alpine team anyway, not looking good at all, and really Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly really need to get a grip of this team. It's not their fault that they may have built a bad car, but still, it's not particularly great. And obviously, Mr. Gasly, I'm tarring with that same brush, not looking good at all. Coming out of testing, people are suggesting they're one of the slowest teams. Now, I was thinking about putting Haas here, but Haas, straight from the beginning, have been quite open about how slow they're going to be. Alpine have only now recently-ish come out about the fact that they're going to be fairly slow. But still, this is a works team with a works engine. Absolutely shocking. And the last of the losers, I really hope I'm wrong. Yeah, this man here, Sergio Perez. I mean, as we know, Helmut Marko's come out 6 to 7 tenths on average, they reckon, slower than Verstappen. Surely it's not that much. But if this guy does not finish second, I think it will be considered a failure. However, there's a chance that those Mercedes and Ferrari teams are going to be a lot closer this year, fingers crossed, to Red Bull than they were last year, even though Red Bull are looking somewhat ominous. But Red Bull have the best car. If this guy doesn't finish second, that prediction is absolutely going to be coming true the whole weekend. I hope I'm wrong. I want Sergio Perez to be the winner. I would love him to smash Max Verstappen, showing us that we are going to have a Sergio Perez championship contender year. I just haven't seen the evidence to do that. I want to be proven wrong, though. I really do. Yeah, I mean, the Mercedes, I think George Russell's really happy with the Mercedes, as is this guy here, Lewis Hamilton, again, really happy with the Mercedes. Yep, they cheesy grin. And this is the thing about Mercedes. They are going into the season now a lot more confident. Both drivers are confident with the car. Hamilton seems happier about that, spiteful rear end, he said last year. So things are looking up for the Mercedes team. And I've never seen them so upbeat going into a season. Because even in 2021, yes, they had a much more competitive car in 21, but there were still doubts coming out of testing going into Bahrain, wasn't there? And yes, they did win the Bahrain Grand Prix. But still, I think Mercedes are really happy. But the happiest guy of all is going to be Max Verstappen. Dominated that first test. Everyone said Red Bull are looking absolutely ominous. I got no reason not to believe anyone else. So Red Bull looking ominous. But as I said, Mercedes are quite hopeful. Now, this is from PlanetF1.com. Now, while Mercedes find out where they were in relation to Red Bull and where they're going to settle in the pecking order, Toto Wolff has given pretty much a positive verdict. After 2 seasons, as we know, 2 seasons out of that title picture, they've changed course with their design, and everyone seems to be really happy with it. And armed with 3 days of testing under their belt, Mercedes, although they didn't do any performance runs, they're still looking mightily happy. Hamilton and George Russell were off the nest last year, as we know, frustrated with their first two ground effect era cars, making it unpredictable, and it bounced more than, well, a kid's bouncy ball, a basketball court, a tennis ball. I mean, name your puns there. It was just ridiculous, wasn't it? The porpoising. Now, on the eve of the 2024 season, they both claim to be much happier with the balance of the W15. So I am massive thumbs up there, but I'm not the only one. I mean, how does this W15 Challenger compare against Ferrari and McLaren with that key flaw addressed? And as we know, he's all smiling there. The Mercedes saviour, maybe? Allison's confident that the new Mercedes W15 car has solved the team's drivability issues, it says here, ahead of the season opening Grand Prix. He believes that the car's looking relatively competitive against the Ferrari and McLaren in that title fight. As we know, they run a record 8 Constructors' Championships, plenty of Drivers' Championships as well, and they suffered, though, their first winless season since 2011 in 2023. They look close, not close enough though, but they're hopeful of a much improved car. And I think whether they're going to win or not depends on how good that Red Bull is. Now, at the launch of the 24's car earlier this month, Allison outlined his hope that Mercedes have found a solution, once again, to the spiteful rear end that plagued poor George Lewis. And speaking to Sky F1 on the final pre-season testing, the Mercedes technical director claimed that W15 is in the same ballpark as Ferrari and McLaren, but not Red Bull. But there was all these rumours coming out. After testing, the Mercedes were one of the cars that had their engines turned down the most, which is why I'm putting them more up there than Ferrari, because the suggestion was their engines were turned down more than Ferrari, but it's going to be really interesting. I mean, you could have just put Charles Leclerc on there, but I wanted to do 3 and 3, 3 winners and 3 losers. So yeah, I mean, both those Ferrari drivers are really close to being put on the winners front, but hey, que sera, whatever will be, will be. Next up, we've got McLaren downbeat. Yeah, they're quite downbeat, especially Lando Norris. I mean, he's not really the optimist, if you're honest, in a lot of interviews, even last year. But their glaring Achilles heel, it says here, has been identified on the eve of the season. Yeah, Jolyon Palmer has identified McLaren's long-run pace potential as their Achilles heel. As we know, they recovered from a very slow start last year to perform miracles and arguably having, at times, definitely though, the second fastest car. And everyone expects them to take another step closer to the front of the field. What we don't want is to have this disastrous, was really good 2021 they had, if you remember, and they kind of slumped all the way down in 2022. No, we want the opposite, don't we? But Tyre Deg, a key issue. Now, at the launch of the car earlier, both Zach Brown and Andrea Stella stressed the need to remain realistic ahead of the new season. Following a muted performance in pre-season testing, which you could make an argument that they had the second or third worst test in terms of problems, but a lot of people are claiming that, including Norris, that they have not made many steps in the right direction. He said, we have our good places and our bad places. I don't really think at the minute we've improved on where we're going to be bad. I think that's still clear, Norris said. Some areas we still need to work on, and I'm not very convinced we've made many steps in the right direction. But other places, we've improved a lot, and I'm happy as a team we are moving in the right direction. With that, okay. Fair enough then. Fair enough, Lando Norris. But still, not. We want to hear more positive things. Last but not least, Alpine. Yeah, they are struggling. From motorsport.com. And their question is, will Alpine really start at the back of F1 2024's pecking order? So as we know, Alpine was usurped in F1's pecking order during the 23 season by Aston Martin and McLaren. But a downbeat pre-season test suggests its attentions may be directed rearwards, it says. So it's not going to be an easy first race. We're not going to start from where we would have liked. That's what Pierre Gasly said to Sky at the close of the pre-season testing. It was hardly a confidence-inspiring reaction, the article says, given the expectations that management throughout pre-season as the mouthpieces with the largest gravitas, it says, wish to save being hoisted on their own petard. Gasly's comment cut through the testing, tentative like a hot knife through butter. So Alpine not looking that great. Some saying they could be the worst team, as we mentioned in our prediction for our winners and losers. I want them to do really well, but you've got to say they've lost Otmar, they've lost I forgot Alan Permain as well last year, and they've kind of been declining. Yes, they had a couple of podium finishes, but that was you could almost make an argument that was other teams making mistakes potentially, rather than Alpine out and out pace. Monaco maybe was deserved more than the podium later on in the season, which was a bit down to luck. But in F1, you make your own luck, don't you? I think they are. A lot of people are saying they're going to be really struggling, and I think if they end up being the second slowest team, which some people have suggested they are, even slower than Sauber and Williams, that will be a massive minus for them. If they if they don't get out of, one of them does not get out of Q1, the first qualifying session, that will be good. If both of them don't get out, that would be horrendous, wouldn't it? But I guess we'll have to see. I mean, practice is, as we know, on Thursday. So, yeah. Thursday the 29th. Remember, it's a leap year. Proof of the pudding, as they say, is going to be in the eating. Anyway, I'm beginning to ramble far too much. So, like and subscribe. If you made it to the end, you are absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. We've got a few more subscribers. I'll try and get to your comments. I really do. But thank you so much for watching. It really, really appreciate it. Any likes, any comments, I really, really appreciate. Thank you very much. I'll stop saying thank you, and I'll speak to you next time. Cheers.